What's up, y'all? It's Danny from Thrifted Wolf. If you guys want to turn your t-shirts into some cute sets or just patchwork pants like these, then keep watching. Okay, so this is everything you're going to need. Everything is going to be linked in the description below. If you have any questions, just let me know. I just have my Singer Heavy Duty that I'm using. You're going to need a good amount of these pins, a pen or marker that's erasable, some thread, obviously. You're going to need just like all-purpose kind, and then you're going to need some elastic. I think this is like 1 inch. You're going to need measuring tape, scissors for cutting fabric, and then you're going to need scissors for just cutting strings when you're sewing. You're also going to need a pair of pants that you don't mind cutting up. This is going to be the pant design that you're going to copy for your pants. So then first you're going to cut off the entire elastic, and then you're going to cut the crotch from the front to the back, so you're left with like 2 pant legs. And you're only going to use one, so you're going to choose one, and then you're going to cut from the crotch to the bottom of the pants where like that seam is, and then you'll have your template that looks like this that you're going to use to make your pants. So to make these pants, I would say you need like 5 extra large 2XL t-shirts to make these. If you want to replace a t-shirt with like some sweatpants, that will work too. But I'm only using 4 because 2 of my shirts have long sleeves and I kind of know how to make it work. But I would say at the very least have like 5 XL t-shirts. If you have some mediums, just try and do more colors. I've gone through my fair share of fabric scissors, and these ones are so nice. Everything I'm using is going to be linked in my bio, but yeah, these ones have lasted me about a year and aren't dull yet. So I very specifically make my first cut from the bottom of the shirt to the armpit area on one of them. If there's no seam, just kind of imagine one. And then you're going to take that bottom like fold over piece and you're going to cut it all off into one piece because we're going to use it later. Then I'm just going to go around the shirt and cut any other seams like by the shoulder areas, and then I'm going to do the same pattern with cutting off the bottom piece on every shirt and then cutting around the seams. These are what those bottom pieces of the shirt looks like, and basically we're just going to use it for like tying stuff later. So yeah, just make sure you set this aside specifically. Then you're going to find out which side of the pant is going to be the front. And the front basically has like a smaller crotch area. You can see this is the back. It has like a bigger swoop because like the fabric is bigger on your butt. But basically I want to know where the front is because I want to put this like main decal wolf piece on the front. So basically I'm just like cutting out the area that I want, and then I'm going to reposition it so it sits nicely on the front of the leg. You don't want it like on the side of the leg. I mean, maybe you do, but I want mine positioned in the front where you can see it, so that's why I'm putting it there. Now I'm going to begin to lay the other fabrics to line up with the color I already have. And you can see I'm cutting it and laying it so there's a good amount of like overlap, so when you go to sew it, there's not going to be any holes or it's not going to pull apart. And now I'm just lining it up with the bottom where the elastic ankle piece is going to go. And you're going to need an additional 2 inches below that ankle piece because when you sew on the elastic, you're going to need some extra fabric to fold over it. So now I'm just going to measure the 2 inches below it, and I'm kind of feeling where the pants end, and then I'm kind of eyeballing 2 inches, but you guys should probably measure. But yeah, I just feel it with my hand and then cut below that. And now I'm cutting it to match it along the outside of the leg. And you're going to need about 1 inch to sew, I would say. And be really careful when you're starting to cut and you're getting close to like another piece of fabric. You kind of want to hold the fabric up to cut the end of it, because if you don't, you could accidentally cut other things, other fabrics you've already laid down, which I've done a million times. And now I'm going to cut fabric to match up on the top of the pants. And you're going to, again, make sure that you have a good amount of overlap to whatever other colors you've laid down. And you're going to want about 6 inches on top of that top of your pants. So here's me measuring the 6 inches, and I'm kind of lining up the side and checking to make sure I have like an inch on top of the edge of the pants. And then I'm going to keep going straight up. Even when the fabric ends, I'm going to keep continuing to go straight, and I'm going to go straight 6 inches up on top of the end of that fabric. And then I'm just going to do a straight line across. Now I'm just going to do some fabric on this side and just kind of do the same exact thing I just explained. Now I've used up all my colors, which are just like the 4 colors I had. So I'm going to use this brown to do like this bottom area because it's like the furthest away from each other, because I don't want my colors to be clashing. So I'm just lining that up and just doing the same thing that I explained before. Now I'm going to fill up just the rest of the spaces while I very carefully don't cut the other fabrics. Kind of have to just keep making sure I'm doing good and doing a good amount of overlap on every single piece. Now I'm going to begin to pin everything together, and I know you can't see it very well, but basically I'm like sliding my hand underneath the fabrics that I've put on my template, because if you don't, you could be pinning your template to your fabrics. So it's kind of like just something you'll learn to do, I guess, on your own. You just want to make sure you don't pin your template underneath your patchwork to your patchwork. Okay, for like the settings I do on my Singer Heavy Duty, any machine will really work as long as it's like a straight stitch machine. But I'm basically going to do like this 4.5 tension, my middle needle position, and then I'm going to make it like a little zigzaggy, but not like too big. It's going to be set on like 1.22-ish, and then my length is going to be set to 2.5. So now I'm just going to stitch all those patches together, and this is kind of what the zigzag design I use does. You could always just use a straight stitch, but I just like how it looks. Now you're going to take the pant leg that you used and you're going to flip it over to the opposite side to make the other pant leg. And I like to set the like leg I already created up next to it so the colors don't like clash together. And you can see these sides that are almost touching, the ones on the insides are going to be next to each other on the back, and then the ones on the opposite sides are going to be on the front. I hope that makes sense. So now I'm just going to cut my fabric, and I'm doing this blue down the bottom left of this new template. So it goes against these like green brown colors because there's no blue already over there. And then I'm doing this brown on the top on the left side because you can see like they match up and they're not like the same color next to each other. Okay, I hope I'm not like over explaining, but I just wanted to explain to you guys why I do certain colors in certain places. But basically I'm just going to finish setting this up, and then I'm going to pin it together and sew it like I did the other leg. Alright, now I'm going to show you how you can do a couple of designs. First I'm going to start out with this swirly design. And if you just want to leave your patchwork pants as they are and you don't really want to do the extra designs on top, just skip to this number, this time that I'm going to put right here, and then that's going to show you the next steps to creating the waistband and the pockets. Okay, now back to how to do this swirl. First, you're just going to get like a circle about the size of your hand, and then you're just going to cut like a long snake type thing and like all the way around the circle. I don't know how else to explain it. You're just gonna keep cutting around and around until you have like a little piece on the end, and you're just gonna cut that off. And then you're just gonna lay it on the pants. You can do a big swirly, a little swirly, you can cut some off, just kind of do whatever you want, but that's how you create this circular one. And then you're just gonna pin it so it stays. And now I'm going to show you how to do like a more complex design like this paw print. First, you're going to take your erasable pen or marker or whatever. You're going to draw out your design. This is me. I just drew some paw prints, and then I actually did not like it, so I just took a wet wipe and just wiped it off. And then I just drew this singular paw print. And then whatever color you want the actual design to be, you're going to take that piece and you're going to make sure it's big enough to cover your entire design. And then you're going to place it underneath, exactly under where your picture is. and then you're going to pin it so it stays in place. When you're doing more detailed designs like the pop ring, you need to set your width to 0 and then your length to like 1.5, because you're going to be cutting out the fabric and you want to make sure it's stable and in its place. And I kind of forgot to record it, but basically wherever the lines are, I stitched, and now I'm just cutting out the fabric that is where I want the other color to show. Sorry, kind of confusing, but that's what I did to make this. Okay, to make them more rigid or like straight lined swirly like in this picture, I instead took a square instead of a circle, and then I cut it very straight, and then as soon as I got to a point, I would turn the fabric and do another straight line and just repeated it until I got to the end, and then I placed it in a swirly type way onto the pants, and then I pinned it. Now that we got the legs all decorated, it's time to put the legs together, and to do that you're just gonna do it so it's inside out, and you're gonna find the points of like where the crotch would be, and you're gonna pin that, and then you're gonna pin where the bottoms line up, like at the little point, and then you're gonna pin the fabric in between. And sometimes it doesn't line up all the way, sometimes you gotta stretch some fabric to make it line up. That's just what happens when you use a bunch of different thrifted materials, but just know that's normal. To sew the legs together, I just like to use a width of 0 because I just want to do a straight line to sew them nice and tight together, and then a length of 1.5 so the stitches are close. So then I'm just going to go ahead and stitch the legs together, and then I'm going to have this. So after you have those two legs, you're going to stitch the legs together. First, I like to place a needle pin at the crotch area, and then also at the top, make sure everything's lined up. And then I'm going to stitch in between them, and then I'm going to flip the pants over and do the same thing, and then I'm going to place a needle at the top where they match up, and then place needles in between the crotch to the top of it. And then I would just double check to make sure everything looks good before you sew it, because if it's your very first time sewing or you haven't sewed a lot, it's best to double check before you sew things. And now, as you can see, I'm just sewing those two legs together. Okay, this is like my favorite part. You get to turn it right side out and kind of see how things are looking. This is the front of mine, and then this is the back. And you could try and add more if you really wanted to, but I like how they look, so now I'm just going to move on to the next step. So now you're going to grab your elastic, and you're going to measure out 2 different pieces. The first piece is going to be your waist, and I do 29 inches, or you can just kind of put the elastic around your waist and then cut it to the size that you want. And then for the ankle, I just do one measurement of 10 inches, and then I cut it in half because you don't need the elastic to be very thick around your ankles, or else it's going to be uncomfortable. To sew the elastic, I just leave the sewing machine settings as the same as they were when we were sewing the pant legs, and I just go back and forth about 3 or 4 times to make sure the elastic is really secure, because if you don't, it will pull apart because the fabrics are weird on it. So I'm going to do the waist first, and for the waist you're going to need 4 clothespins. So first you're going to open up like the inside of the waist, and you're going to line up the elastic to be like even on the inside, and then you're gonna pin a piece where the back is and make sure there's enough fabric to fold over it, and then you're gonna do the same thing on the opposite side and make sure the elastic is even, and then you're gonna do the opposite side, so it's like 4 even ways around, and you're gonna pin it exactly on the left side of the pants and make sure there's fabric to fold over it, and then you're gonna do the same thing on the right. For the sewing machine settings, I'm going to do the biggest width and the biggest length I can do. I want a big zigzag so it can stretch, because the elastic is going to stretch. But when you sew it, you're going to kind of make sure as you go that the fabric can fold over comfortably enough so it's not like too much, but it's also like not too little. Like you kind of need the perfect amount. And if this is your first time sewing elastic, this is hard. Like my first probably 5 pair of pants with elastic turned out funky. So if you don't get the first time, don't beat yourself up on it about it. It's hard to like get it to be good. Like I still mess up sometimes. But yeah, you're just gonna do that all the way around, and you're gonna stretch enough fabric to get to each like new clothespin. You can't like overstretch, but you can't understretch. It's just something you're gonna eventually learn how to do good the more you do it. And then for the next part, you're gonna fold the fabric over and you're gonna do the same thing. Make sure you're sewing like on the left side, like not like in the exact center of that elastic, because you're gonna want to fit your shoelace or string on the inside of the elastic so you can like adjust it and make it tighter. Okay, now that my waist is sewn, I'm gonna make sure I find the front of my pants, and then I'm gonna cut a little slit right in like the center crotch area and on each side, like so the string can go through. So I'm gonna cut a little slit on this side and then a little slit on the other. And then I'm going to put a clothespin on the end of this string, and this is the string that I cut from one of the bottom of my shirts. So I just chose the blue one. I know there's multiple options, but I'm going to push it all the way through this waistband part until I come out the other end. And this is how it's looking, and now it's time to do the ankles. So the ankles is kind of the same, but I don't put a clothespin on it. I kind of just sew the elastic on and stretch it as much as I can. I have like a really baggy bottom part of my pants, so I have to like stretch it a bunch, but yours might not have to be stretched as much. But sometimes at the end there's like fabric overlay that I just sew, like it's not perfect on the ankles, but you don't really see it, so it doesn't really matter to me. Okay, so once you're done sewing that all the way around, you're going to sew it again, and you're going to fold that fabric over and just sew it down. Alright, now I'm going to show you how to make hand pockets. If you don't really care for hand pockets, just skip to this time. So I already have a template for my pocket, but basically you're going to copy this measurement. It's going to be a 12 by 7.5 square. So basically you're just going to cut out a 12.5 or 12 by 7.5 square, and you're going to do that 4 times. If you don't have enough fabric, I guess just get another thrifted shirt that kind of matches, because sometimes I don't have extra fabric to make pockets, so that's always an option. Alright, now you're going to take your pants and you're going to lay them flat, and you're going to make sure the front and the back seams are lined up perfectly, because you don't want your pockets to be off center. You're going to measure an inch down on the side and cut a little hole, and then you're going to measure from the hole down even further, 6 inches, and mark a little hole, and then you're going to cut a straight line between the holes, and this is where the hole is going to be for your pocket. And then you're going to flip your pants over, make sure the seams are lined up, and then do the same thing to make a second hole for your other pocket on the opposite side. Then you're going to line up 2 of your pocket fabrics together and take the long side and line it up next to the hole that you made. And then you're going to kind of mark where it ends. Actually, you're going to go like a little bit further. And now you're going to go over to your sewing machine and just make sure that it's on 0 for the width, because you just want a straight line to sew it together. And you're going to want the length on like 1.5 or 2, because you want the stitches close together, because when you put your hands in your pockets, you don't want any holes. Alright, this next part is pretty tricky, so just make sure you're paying attention. I'm going to take that marker out, and I'm going to sew all the way around the edges. I'm not going to sew where the pocket was lined up next to my pants. Like, you're going to leave that open, so then you're going to have a place to put your hand in like this. Now to sew the pocket to your pants, you're going to turn your pants inside out, so then you can sew the pocket to the pants. So you're going to line up the top of the pocket to where the waistband is. And then you're going to pin it all the way around, and you're going to make sure that the pins are facing towards you and the fabric is laying together like this. I personally like to pin the top of the pocket, and then the bottom where like these seams meet the very bottom hole, you can see it's kind of like different, just because to line it up better. And then when you go to pin it around, some fabric needs to be stretched, and that's also normal just because we're using a bunch of thrifted materials. And now we're going to sew the pocket to the pants using the same settings on the sewing machine that we had previously changed it to. And I'm not gonna lie, this part is really hard. It's hard to get the fabric to maneuver in the right spot. I still have problems doing this, so if you're having problems and it's hard, that is completely normal. Just keep pushing, and then if you have holes in the end, you can always just sew over it. And now that your pants are done, I want to show you a little before and after. Here are how mine turned out. I love doing the before and after, just seeing the transformation. And you can see I also have this matching top. I'm gonna release that next weekend with a new video. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube video. I'd really appreciate it if you like, comment, subscribe, you know, do all the things, because it really pushes me to want to create more, and I have so many more ideas for things I can share with you guys on what to make, because I have a lot of sewing tricks to share and crocheting tips and a bunch of other artsy stuff. So yeah, if you want to see some more tutorial videos, I'm going to try to release one every weekend. So turn on the bell and on my profile so you can be notified for new videos that I'm going to be releasing. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.